Hello everyone and welcome to Sew with Jessica. In today's tutorial, I'll be sharing the making of this lovely blouse that you can see me wearing right here on the screen. This blouse was inspired by this top from Shein. The plan was to recreate this exact style here from Shein, but I wasn't looking at the style inspiration while I was making mine and I kind of went overboard with the slash and spread, but it came out like this and I love the style so much. If it's something you're interested in learning, make sure to keep on watching. Don't forget to like, don't forget to share because that will help you to recommend this channel to other people, and also don't forget to subscribe. Now let's get into the tutorial proper. I'll be drafting the front piece first, and I'm going to have to fold my pattern paper into two, and that's because the neckline is asymmetrical. It goes in a different direction, so of course we need your pattern paper to be folded into two. I wrote a straight line at the top part, which is going to stand as my starting line. For my starting line, I'll take my neck width of 3 inches, and for the neck depth, I am using 3 inches. Mind you, this is not the neckline, but we're just going to take this regular universal neckline first before we go ahead to mark the actual neckline we're working with. From the starting point there, take your shoulder measurement divided by 2. At that point, mark 1 inch downwards, and that will be for your shoulder slope. So you connect it as seen to meet the neck width that we have right there. From this new shoulder line or the shoulder slope, take your round armhole measurement divided by 2, which mine is 8, and make sure that you're marking that measurement at the width of your shoulder measurement. So by the time you connect the lines together, it will be very straight. And we're also going to make another straight line across it, just as seen. So this line can be your chest line or your armhole line. Now place the tape from the tip of your shoulder line, just as you can see in the video, and mark from your shoulder to your bust point. Mine is 12. I'll mark it and make a straight line across that point. The next line will be from the shoulder to the under bust line, and mine is 14.5. I'll also rule out a straight line across that point. Next, we have from the shoulder to the waistline, which I'm using 18 inches, and then I'll rule a straight line across that point. Next, we have the full length of the blouse. That is where the whole length of the blouse is supposed to stop, and rule out a straight line there. So I'm using 22 inches for the full length, but we don't stop there. If you see the picture, you will see that we have a back waistline. So I'm just going to use whatever is left of this pattern paper for the back waistline, which I'm still going to add up to it later on because it's actually looking very short. So I just wrote BWL, which is back waistline or back line. Now we'll move on to the armhole line. So in order to take our armhole curve, first we're going to take our round bust measurement, divide it by 4 and mark it on that chest line that we have right there. And once I mark it, I will mark the midpoint of the armhole line, which is 4 inches. Mark half an inch inwards at that point. Now take your curve rule or your French rule and make a curve from the tip of your shoulder line to the half an inch inwards that we marked there, and then to where we have your bust measurement on the armhole line. That's going to be your round armhole measurement. So just go in one swipe and you have your armhole curve. This blouse does not need that, so we are just going to move on. So since I already have my bust measurement on the armhole line, we'll move to the under bust line, take our round under bust measurement, divide by 4 and mark it right there. We'll do same for the waistline, and then on the full length we are going to take our hip measurement divided by 4 and mark what it gives us right there. I'll also bring that measurement to my full length, and then I'll connect it together as seen. So mind you, there is no ease allowance, nothing yet. I'll just connect this measurement. As you can see, I'll just blend it into the full length and the back waistline. Now I added my sewing allowance, which I am using 1 inch, and the 1 inch comprises of both my ease allowance as well. So altogether, let's say my sewing allowance is half an inch, but I'm marking 1 inch right here, and I'll explain as we move further. Go ahead and cut this out as seen in the video, but make sure not to cut out your neckline yet because we need to work on the neckline properly now. So open up your pattern paper and extend all these basic lines that we have right here to the other side, including the neckline that we've already drawn. In order to create the neckline that we have in this picture here, so I'll pick from either the left or the right side and I'll mark the depth that I want. I marked 7 inches, which I thought was perfect, but I wish I had marked like 9 inches. You know, since it's only one side that comes down, the neckline is not going to reveal anything at all. So first I'll connect that straight line to that 3 inches that we have at the neck width area there. But we are going to now mark 3 inches inwards from that depth line, and that's going to give an illusion of a Queen Anne neckline, although it's not a Queen Anne neckline, but this is how to draft the neckline actually. So the only thing I wish I'd done different here was to just make the length longer. I would have made the neckline like 9 inches because I felt it was too high when I wore it. And now we are going to blend this line to meet the other neckline that we have there. So I'm not just going to blend it straight anyhow. I'm going to make sure that it blends with this curve, this neckline, this curve that we already have here. I don't want to do something outside of that curve. So I flipped the ruler just as seen and it was perfect. Everything blends in well with that curve right there. So this is everything for the neckline. We are not cutting it out. Everything here is still needed, but we already have an idea or a vision of what we are working with. So now if your neckline is at the left side, it means your darts or these other drapings should be at the right side, just as you can see in this picture. But before we do the drapings, we have to work on the back waistline. We have to get that back waistline first before we start working on the drapings. So I'll have to add pattern paper to the length of this pattern paper here, because like I mentioned earlier, this back waistline that we have here is not enough, so we need it to be enough. Now, mind you, this blouse does not have that. It does not need that. So we are going to mark 2 inches from the side seam, right? And I'm just going to connect that seam. I'll connect it to meet the armhole line around there, just close to the armhole curve area. You can actually use your free hand for this, but just make sure you're not using your dart line or anything like that. Just make sure it's like outside of like your nipple area, which is right here, and then connect it straight down. So now that I've connected that line, I want to mark the length of my back waistline because that's where the effect of the backs is going to be. So I marked 7 inches from the full length of the blouse. I marked 7 inches down, and that 7 inches down is the back waistline. So from the left and the right side, we are going to connect a slanted line from this full length to meet this back waistline or the back line, just as seen. Now we'll cut through one side of the neckline just as seen, and this is basically everything for the neckline. So by the time we fold this part down, this is what we are going to have. We are going to have the neckline that we have in the style inspiration there, but I'm going to notch this second neckline. We are not going to cut it open, but we are going to notch, and that's going to differentiate where the neckline ends and where the shoulder line starts from, and that's why we had to just draw that marker. It's not like we really needed it. So we'll go ahead and split this other part now so we can proceed to do the draping. Also remember that the blouse will have a slit, so I just marked that point there, that full length area. You can decide to raise yours to the waistline. I just marked that point there, and that's where my slit will start from. I labeled my pattern SF side front and then CF for center front. I'll keep the side front aside and we'll start slashing and spreading this CF. So if you look at the picture inspiration, you will see that the area that had drapings was only the bust area. But you guys, I was not even checking the inspiration again at this point. I just went on and was slashing and spreading everything, and I had a lot to drape. I could have gone ahead and reduced it, but I actually do like the way it came out, and that was why I left it like that. But just in case you want to get that exact picture, that exact results we have in the picture there, make sure you only drape around the bust area. And also for my drapings, I didn't use any measurement, just slash as much as you want, and then we'll cut on the fabric. Also, when you are transferring this pattern to the fabric, make sure you're adding yours 1/2 inch sewing allowance to the areas where we are going to be draping. But for the side seams, do not add, because we already added our seam allowance while we're drafting the pattern earlier. So cut this out, keep it aside, and we'll cut out the side front. So I already notched the area where my slit will stop. You can decide to increase it or even add to it if you want, and then we are going to gather this other part to the other side. But before then, I'll cut out an interface for the top part or the front piece, interface or a lining, but I want mine to be very short, so my interface will stop as indicated. So after placing the fabric on the fabric in order to cut the interface, we are going to pin the shoulder areas. Remember that the top part or the neckline has just one single cut, so we need everything to be intact, to be in one place, and we'll go ahead to cut it out. Now we are going to sew along the neckline, and then for the interface we are going to weave. Also make sure you notch on your fabric as well, where the neckline ends and where the shoulder begins. So make sure you notch at that point, because we are going to sew it all round, just as seen. Now notch at this point and then also notch at the V, so by the time we flip it over, everything is going to relax a lot better. Also, you might want to top stitch the sewing allowance to the lining side, which is the interface. Now for this other side, I'll make a straight stitch and I'll pull the threads so that I can gather it up. So now we are going to attach this side to the remaining side of the front piece. After sewing it together, I want to cut out the back piece. So I'm going to use the front piece as a template to cut out the back piece. So I'm using my pins to hold the shoulder lines together, and then I'll hold the armhole area and the side seams together. So that way I'll place it on the fabric and just cut out my back piece. Now, you're going to cut your back piece on fold. This dress does not have a zip, so it does not need a zip allowance. The only thing that we need for easy wearing is just ease allowance. So take your time and place this nicely, and like I said earlier, we're only using the front piece as a template, so don't forget that the back piece does not have a back waistline. So we are going to stop where the full length stops and then proceed with the armhole line. So at that armhole point there, I had to stop and mark my shoulder measurements properly, also mark my neck width and my neck depth, which I'm using 2 inches for the neck depth, and then I marked my shoulder slope and redid the armhole curve properly. So I'll hem the neckline and then hem the base, and then we are going to now add some straps to the back. Like I said, there is no zip, so these straps we are going to add to the back is going to give it some fitting. So from the midpoint, I mark 2 inches to the left and then 2 inches to the right. You can mark 3 inches apart or 4 inches depending on where you want to place them. So just go ahead and pin them, and I'll just show you guys how to sew it now. So I'm already done fixing one side, and I want to show you guys how I fix the other parts. This is what it looks like. So now I'll just go ahead and sew this down first. So you see the rough edges showing, and I didn't stop there. I folded it down and I gave it the final top stitch. This is going to conceal all the rough edges and give you a much more neater job. So we're just going to top stitch all the way down. This is what the back piece looks like. So I can go ahead and fix my rope, my lacing rope, in these loops that we created earlier, and by the time we tie it, this is what it's going to look like at the back, and this is going to give us the fitting that the blouse will need. This is basically it, guys. The back piece is like the easiest to do. So now we'll go ahead and attach the front piece to the back piece. So we're going to place them up. So you remember earlier that we added 1 inch for sewing allowance. We are only going to sew half an inch. The second half an inch is going to be for ease, so we can have access for easy wearing. And then sew up the shoulder area as well. So we are done, and this is what it looks like. So I went ahead to just use a pin to hold down that folded side of the neckline, so this does not confuse us any further. We've attached the side seams and the shoulder areas together, and this is what it looks like so far. So now we'll proceed to cut out the sleeve. So this is a basic sleeve guide, and this could work for beginners as well. Go ahead and fold your fabric down just as you can see, not too much but at least enough. So first we are going to mark out the starting line, And from this starting line, we are going to mark all our measurements. Place your tape on the starting line and mark the full length of your sleeve, either long or short sleeve. Just mark the desired length that you're working with. I'm using 24 because it's a long sleeve. Next, mark your elbow line. Mine is 13 inches, and I also roll out a straight line there. The next line is going to be my bicep line. I usually use 6 inches, but this is how you can get your bicep line. Place a rule in your arm and then place your measuring tape from your shoulder to where the rule starts. That is your bicep line. Using this picture on the screen, these are the basics line that we need right here. Now we'll take our round bicep measurements, divide it by 2 and mark what it gives us on the bicep line. So the blouse that I'm marking this sleeve for has half an inch of ease on the body, so I'm also going to add half an inch of ease to the sleeve as well. Now connect a slanted line from the starting line of the sleeve to the bicep line. Now mark the midpoint of that line here, which is the bicep length, and dot it where we have the slanted area. So just make sure that you mark it exactly where we have the slanted area, just as seen. Using your French curve, create a nice curve from the midpoint there to the top part, just as seen. Now we'll flip the curve in the opposite direction and mark from the midpoint to where we have the bicep measurement. Carefully place your tape from this curve that we have here, and this should give you the exact measurement of your armhole. Now I'm going to bring my blouse that I'm working with and I'm going to take the measurement to be sure that what I have there is equal as well. And if it's not equal, it's simple. Just go ahead and redefine your curve properly, and that should give you the exact measurement of your armhole. Now go ahead and I'll place this tape on this new defined curve line, and I got exactly what I had there. Now take your round elbow measurements, divide it by 2 and mark what it gives you on the elbow line, after which we are going to add the half an inch for ease. If you are working on a stretchy fabric, just take your wrist measurement, divide it by 2 and apply it on the full length. But if you are not, take the measurement of your fist, which should allow easy wearing. Next, we'll proceed to connect these lines together. Don't forget to add your half an inch for ease, and then we can add our sewing allowance, which I'm using 1 inch or half an inch, whatever you want. I have both my sleeve here and it's time to attach them to the dress. So this is the wrong face of the blouse, and then I put in the sleeve into the blouse, the armhole area. I'm going to place them sides, right face facing each other, just as seen, and then I'll pin them around that sewing area that we have there, around the seam area. And then also I'll go ahead and start placing the sleeve around the armhole, and I'll use my pins to secure them together. Just make sure that the edges are equally placed, and your sleeve is supposed to be equal with the armhole. If it's not, then something was wrong somewhere. But as you can see, mine is equal, and I believe yours should be equal if you follow this tutorial. So now we are going to take this to the sewing machine and sew this up. So anywhere there is a seam, make sure you open up your seam. That's going to stop it from having excess fabric. It's going to allow it to relax properly. So guys, we've come really close to the end of this video. I hope you learned something new. If you did, make sure to give us a thumbs up. Also let us know in the comment section. That is going to really help us work better. At least that way we know that these tutorials are really helpful to you. Also help us share this video, because that will help you to recommend this channel to other people as well. Did I mention subscribe? Yes, please do also subscribe, and let's move on. So now that I've fixed the sleeve, this is what it looks like. It came out really beautiful. Everything aligns perfectly basically, and all these processes we did with the sleeve right here is what we're going to repeat for the other sleeve as well. You can see everything aligns nice and clean. This is what your sleeve should look like. And yes, we are done. I gave this a really good press. I also took it to the weavers for them to weave. You can see the inseams are looking very neat. All I have to do is to just wash so I can get the chalk marks off. So this is what it looks like, and after I was done sewing, I tried it on immediately. It's like a ritual. We always do that here, and this is what it was looking like. That was before I even went to take proper pictures and videos the next day, and you can see how it slaps beautiful. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.